All right, Luke chapter 10. History was made, I don't know if you know this, not too long ago, recent history. May 19th, 2016, you guys know what I'm talking about here? A 37-year-old Texan brought joy to the world. No? Candace Payne. Does anybody recognize the name Candace Payne? No? She posted a short Facebook video on May 19th, 2016 that had the attention of over 150 million people within a single week. Never before been done in history. Had the attention of everyone from high-profile celebrities to people even in this room. And you don't maybe know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Chewbacca Mom.
Oh, yeah!
Yep, she made history. She brought joy to the world, that Chewbacca Mom. In that video, if you haven't seen it, it's remarkable. She wears a mask and laughs. Remarkable. And America collectively responded by giving her fortune and fame. She got talk show spots, interviews, nearly $500,000 in total gifts, college scholarships for her two kids, ages 6 and 7. Won't even be to college for another 15 years plus. And now, if you don't know, Hasbro, the toy manufacturing company, has honored her by releasing an action figure doll in her likeness. Oh man! I mean, this is history. And you know why? Because we're all so thankful for having been entertained by a stranger. Candace Payne brought us 4 minutes and 4 seconds of the cheapest joy we've had in a long time. And we felt the need to honor her. I think she does need to be honored to some extent because she reminded our entire country of just how desperate we are for a life with more fun and more joy in it than the one we're living right now. If 4 minutes and 4 seconds of watching a woman wear a mask and laugh is what it took for you to realize there's joy in this life and that life can be fun, you apparently needed it. Speaking of desperate, the analogy I can best think of to describe what America is like in its pursuit of fun is a dog who chases a car. You ever seen that? Dogs chasing cars? Americans chase fun like dogs chase cars. You know what I mean? To their own detriment. You know what happens to a dog who actually catches the car? He's trying to... When I was 6 years old, we got a German Shepherd pup. We named him Jake. Problem with Jake was that he liked cars, moving cars. It's like, if you're going to chase cars, chase the ones that are parked. They're easier to catch and you'll probably live. Not Jake. Any vehicle that was going past our house, boy, he'd turn tail and run. And on his very first birthday, he caught one and died. And a lot of Americans are chasing fun like Jake chased cars, to their own detriment. Americans, 2016, chasing fun to their own ruin, trying to find a life with more fun in it than they already have. And they do so to their own undoing. Now I say this, and this kind of ties back to last week's message. If you were here for this, you knew that we were talking a lot about Christian work. The work that Jesus calls to, and the way in which He calls us to it. It kind of doesn't look too fun, does it? You remember last week we were talking, Jesus picked 70 of His disciples and He sent them out 2 by 2, and He said, I'm sending you out as lambs among wolves. No one is unaware of what that means. When lambs go where wolves are, lambs die. Okay? So Jesus is going, I'm sending you where you'll die. And you can't take money with you. You can't take luxury items with you. You can't take what you and I would call basic necessities with you. And listen, as I said last week, there's a lot of people, even Christians, that are avoiding Christian work because by all outward appearances, it seems to be a killjoy, doesn't it? And then on top of it, God tells Christians that they don't get to be in love with the world. 1 John chapter 2, you remember that part? And he says it in kind of a threatening way. Don't be in love with the world, because if you're in love with the world, it's obvious that God's love isn't in you. So we all read that and we're like, whoa, if I'm too in love with the world, then that means I might not be a Christian, so I better not show that I'm too in love with the world. And yet we're all secretly lusting after this world. Why? Because it's funner. Right? The world has more to offer in terms of fun and entertainment and cheap thrills than Jesus does. I mean, if I live in this world, I can experience all kinds of highs and all kinds of fun and all kinds of... But if I serve Jesus, I might die, and he might take away my money, and he might take away my luxuries and my comforts and my popularity, and I don't know if I want that. And so, true Christian work, from the outside, looks like a killjoy, doesn't it? I think we'd all agree to that. I mean, really, it kind of looks like not too appealing. I'm going to send you among lambs among wolves. It's like, oh, that's just what I wanted. And you can't take money or provisions. It's like, oh, sweet, because I love being without anything. I like it when Jesus takes everything away from me. Love that. When God tells us that we can't be in love with the world, and we can't find our fun and our joy and our entertainment and our excitement and our fulfillment in the world, it's not that he's trying to take away the fun that we've always wanted. He's actually trying to give us the fun that we so desperately chase. See, because we think we're going to find it in the world, and Jesus goes, you're not going to find it in the world, so let me take this away from you so that you can find it in the only way that I've determined it can be found. And that is through serving Jesus the way he wants to be served. And we're like, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, you're going to take everything away from me, and you're going to make me risk my life in order to serve you? And Jesus goes, yes, yes, yes I am. You want to be happy? Do you? Do you or don't you? And we're all like, well, yeah. And he's like, then serve me the way I've told you to serve me. And we're like, but I don't know. And he's like, but do you want to be happy? Well, yeah. Then serve me the way I've told you to serve me. And you're like, but that might cost me my life. And he's like, I know that. I'm the author of life. I'm the one who gave it to you. Don't you think that I understand full well how life works? I'm the one who made it up. And if I tell you to risk it in order to find it, don't you think I'm onto something? And some of us, we're thrill seekers and we're risk takers. And there's people in this room, and I won't out them, they've jumped out of airplanes for God's sake. They need mental help. Again, I won't out them, but they're mentally deranged. And listen, there are people so seeking the cheap joy of life that they're literally destroying themselves by it. And there are some cheap, easy thrills out there. Drugs and alcohol, sex, okay, pornography. Is it thrilling? Yes. If it wasn't, we wouldn't do it. There's a thrill in that, but it's cheap. You keep at it, it will destroy you. And Jesus is going, I've got a better way for you. I've got a better life for you. Trust me. And we're like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I want to. And he's like, you should. You should. And if you're apprehensive about it, you should get next to somebody who's doing this, because they'll tell you this is where joy is found. You want a new life in Christ? Do you want real happiness? Do you want to have fun? Then trade in your boring, thrillless life. Trade in the mediocrity that you've become accustomed to. And serve Jesus and live on the front lines. I mean, this is roller coaster theology. You're like, that's too scary for me. Well then, yeah, you should stay away from Jesus, because it's going to be scary. He's going to bring you to the brink, to the very edge of the cliff, and make you look over and go, you got your chute on? Let's jump now. You want a real... You guys have seen extreme sports. You know, these people jumping out of airplanes with them squirrel suits on. You ever seen them squirrel suits? I mean, they're flying. I mean, they're Mach 10 in nothing but like an outfit. Like MC Hammer pants. And they're like, and it's like, holy cow. It's like if you're that much of a thrill seeker, if you're that much of a risk taker that you would risk your life and your health on a cheap thrill, why would you not join the ranks of Christ's disciples and serve Him the way others have and have found that is the only way to be truly happy in life? He's given you the opportunity. You want to do this? You can. If He last week sent out 70 nobodies to do this, He'd send out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 13 nobodies. This is the chance of a lifetime. This is the chance, you and I, to subscribe to a life of greater fun and joy and thrill and fulfillment than anyone else has, simply because we're here right now hearing the gospel truth. Those that don't have it cannot possibly live a fulfilling life apart from Christ. You are greatly privileged that you even have the opportunity to take Jesus up on this offer. Once in a lifetime. C.S. Lewis, if you don't know who that is, he wrote Chronicles of Narnia. He's a fairly popular author. He was also kind of a theologian. He wrote some books that if you don't have your brain screwed on, you're going to get lost. He's real smart. Every once in a while I find a quote of his that I'm able to wrap my mind around. This is one of them. C.S. Lewis says this: if we consider the unblushing promises of reward and the staggering nature of the rewards promised in the Gospels, it would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We're half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered to us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in the slum because he can't imagine what's meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. And the promises that God makes for us in the Scriptures, they're true and good. He's not lying. God's not a liar, and He can't lie. So when He says, I've written these things that your joy may be full, and I want you to experience the fullness of joy, and blessed is He, meaning happy is the one who, fill in the blank. When He gives us those promises, it's legit. It's not like we got to play half Christian, but then, like leave church and then go find our real fun in the world. Like glad church is over now, I can get on to really, having some fun out there. And America is chock full of churches who are right now sitting in a boring service praying to God that somehow time would fast forward and they could get out as soon as possible. Can't wait for this hour to be over. So I can get out there and I can barbecue. I can get out there and I can have something cool to drink. I can get out there and get to the park. I can get out there and start my vacation. I can get out there and enjoy life. Having to learn all this truth is so boring, and it's like, what? This is the doorway through which you must go to experience the joy. Again, if you don't know the gospel truth, there's no door to you. You're just going to bang your head against the wall. That's why you're privileged to be here, because the door just opened. You want joy? Walk through. There are others out there who aren't hearing the gospel this morning. They've never heard the gospel. They don't know the truth about Jesus. They don't know the offers that are being made. They don't know the promises that have been given. Therefore, they're doomed to a life of brick wall headbanging. And some of us are very familiar with what it feels like to bang your head against a wall. You're trying to find fulfillment, and you're trying to find fun, and you're trying to have a blessed life, and it just isn't working. You've gone from woman to woman to woman, and it doesn't work. You've gone from bottle to bottle to bottle, and it doesn't work. You've gone from county to county to county, and that doesn't work either. And you've gone from location to location. You've had as many addresses as the average man has gone through changes of socks, and it doesn't work and you're fed up and you want something new. And it's my joy and my honor to present you with the true source of joy. And it's serving Jesus the way that He says. And you're like, but it looks scary. Yeah, I know. Enough of that. Stop it already. If we take God at His word, then we are going to have the greatest joy that a human can have. And if we don't take Him at His word, then we won't. Those are our choices this morning. Now there's a trouble with this, all right? The trouble with all of this is that obeying God to the rational mind seems to promise the opposite of joy, doesn't it? The opposite of happiness. I mean, what we've seen last week is that Jesus is sending His disciples into hostile territory where they might get killed, but don't worry about that, with a deeply offensive message, with explicit instructions to preach nothing but that message. Not even to say hello. Don't even bother with social pleasantries along the way. Just get to work. And they were commanded to risk their lives. They weren't allowed to bring money or luxury items or extra stuff. They were stripped bare, totally at the mercy of God to provide for them and at the mercy of whoever would host them. They were given no guarantee of success. Maybe it would be favorable, maybe it wouldn't. And all that says to me is that doing the work of God the way Jesus requires is going to bring you to great lows. Great lows. Extreme lows. And you're like, wait a second, you just told us it was going to make us happy. It'll make you sad first. Did you hear me? Should I stand up and say it? I want your attention. Doing the work of Christ is going to make you filled with joy. It is going to bring you into the realm where you can experience the greatest happiness you'll ever experience, but it'll make you sad first. And you can't have the joy without you can't have the high without the low. Can't. Last week we saw Jesus just totally ruining His 70 men. You might die. I mean, imagine the frame of mind with which they went out. You think they were like skipping for joy and like, this is awesome, my joy is full, I'm happy as can be, and maybe I'll die, woo! I don't think so. These guys were freaked out. I'm guessing that they were wrestling with a little bit of inner turmoil, if you want to put it that way. I'm guessing that they were second-guessing their commitment to Jesus. I don't know if we should have, did we get ourselves in trouble here? I mean, where are we going? Hey, discipleship class, I'm talking to you now, you discipleship class people. Let's say that right now, I said, hey, guess what I got in my back pocket? Tickets to Iraq. You ready? You ready? What if I was serious? We're getting on a plane, it leaves Minneapolis at 6 o'clock tonight, and all you get to bring is what you're wearing now. How many of you are in? Some of you would be like, let me first go back and say goodbye to my parents. Can I first go home and tie up some loose ends? Can I at least give 2 weeks to my employer? 2 weeks notice. Can I at least 6 o'clock tonight? Seriously, I can't make that one, but if we could reschedule the flight. And Jesus is playing that exact game with these people. Luke chapter 9 ended with that, didn't it? And Jesus went, oh, you want to follow me? Can't. You want to follow me? Can't. And how many of us in this room would be rejected by Jesus on His terms because we're simply not ready? And how many of us would be rejected on Jesus' terms because the 70, when they were given the lamb among wolves and can't take this, we'd be like, whoa, seriously, Iraq? Go and yell at some Muslims about how they're all wrong? I know what happens to people who do that to, ISIS. Yeah, that's lambs among wolves. So I'm telling you, when these 70 went out last week, they were probably a little nervous, to say the least. And yet they went because they didn't receive Jesus' commands with a rational mind like so many of us. They received it with a faithful mind. They didn't look at Jesus and the things that He just commanded. Well, that doesn't make sense. I mean, what if we die? I mean, ain't I better for you if I'm alive than if I'm dead? I mean, shouldn't we rethink things, Jesus? I mean, isn't there a better strategy that we can employ if we're really going to reach the world? I mean, Yeah, if you're thinking rationally, that's, of course, they weren't thinking rationally. Look, there's nothing about Christianity and the service of Christ that's rational, is there? Those of you who have been here for long enough, it's irrational, if anything, isn't it? Die and you'll live? That's what? That's irrational. Because live and you'll live. And Jesus goes, no, die and you'll live. The way up is the way down. You want to go up in life? You want to be promoted? Then humble yourself. You want to experience the greatest joy? You must be broken. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. It's like, what are we thinking if we're going to follow a Lord who keeps telling us things that just doesn't make sense? Well, let me pose the question to you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when it just doesn't make sense? Well, they took God at His word and they were determined to obey, these 70. Look at what 17 says. Go to verse 17. It says, then the 70 returned. And now, I don't know how long they're gone. They've been gone. The Bible doesn't tell us how long they were out. We believe that there was at least enough time for quite a few things to happen. Days, weeks, I don't know, months. I'm guessing days or weeks. So the 70 returns with joy, and they say, Lord, even the demons are subject to us in your name. Apparently, God had given them enough power that they were able to exorcise demons. We know that Jesus had given them power to heal people of sicknesses, and they come back and they're just freaked out about this. Oh, and by the way, 70 were sent out as lambs among wolves, and how many came back alive? All of them, all 70, nobody died. I mean, it's like, we all think we're going to just die. If I serve Jesus, He's just going to take everything from me. It's like, no. I mean, all you fatalists, I'm afraid to give Jesus too much because He'll take everything. Yeah, He will. Why are you so scared? 70 went out, 70 returned. They're fine, didn't need to be so scared, in other words, And these guys went out and they were prepared to die. They were half expecting to die. And they gave up their money, they gave up their comfort, they gave up their luxury, they gave up their popularity, they were willing to give up their lives, and what did they get in return? Joy. They left without money, they left without a knapsack, it says, quote, returned with joy. They didn't leave with joy. They got it out there somewhere and came back with it. Where will your joy be found? On the battlefield called serving Jesus Christ. Some people are doomed to a life of mediocrity. They're never going to experience the fun that's promised to us by Jesus as a Christian because they're going to play it safe. They're not going to take the risks. They're not going to make the investments. They're not going to be obedient. They're not going to do what God says. And I'm telling you, you will live a fine life, but it will be mediocre. It won't be fun. You won't experience the fullness of joy. Oh, you'll experience joy here and there, but it will be shallow. It will never reach its full potential. And I love what Jesus says in response. Verse 18, He says, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. Now, those of you who know anything about the Bible, we understand, I think it's in Isaiah chapter 14, it talks about Satan falling. He became a fallen angel. He corrupted other angels to fall along with him. And Satan kind of it seems that he was kind of banished to this earthly realm where he wreaks havoc among the human race to this day. Even the Bible says that the whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one, influenced by Satan and satanic forces. The Bible calls Satan the god of this world, the god of this age. So we know that Jesus was there in antiquity when Satan fell. And we know that Jesus saw that happen. We also know that Jesus has the foresight to know that Satan will one day fall for good and be cast into the eternal lake of fire in the book of Revelation. Jesus knows that, and He can see it in His mind because He's already there, and being in a timeless realm, Jesus knows everything. But Jesus isn't referring to the past or the future here when he says, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. He's saying, I've done a bit of research into, and I'm not going to bore you with how I know this, but it's highly probable that Jesus is referring to seeing Satan being injured and destroyed and knocked down in conjunction with the disciples, the 70, having gone out to do their work. In other words, as the 70 departed from Jesus to go out there and obey him faithfully, they were going along and preaching the gospel to people and sharing the blunt truth with people. And Jesus was back at camp watching in the spiritual realm Satan taking shots, falling like lightning falls, and then disappearing, and then blackness. And this is just like, now I don't want to get real charismatic and like some churches will be like, you're just fighting Satan. No. The gospel is what destroys Satan. And so long as the disciples were sticking with the truth that they shared with people was doing great damage in the spiritual realm to Christ's advantage. You let go of the gospel, you become a blabbering idiot that's ineffective, and I would go so far as to say counterproductive. You let go of the gospel, you're no longer fighting Satan, you're on his team. It has everything to do with the Word of God that Jesus gave us. You stick with that. There's nothing inherently powerful about any one of us in this room. Just like those 70. That's why when they came back, they were so freaked out. They're like, even the demons were subject to us. See, because they didn't expect that to happen. But they were carrying the truth of Jesus with them, and that was sending shots through Satan, who is our great adversary. Jesus goes, yeah, I know, I saw Satan fall. I was there, I was watching. And he says, and don't forget, I'm the one who gave you that power. Look at verse 19. This kind of humbles us. Jesus says, behold, I give you the authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. So don't